Hello, fellow Amiga users and Scene World podcast listeners. This is Amiga Bill from the Guru Meditation.
And this is Anthony from the Guru Meditation.
And you are listening to Scene World Podcast.
Hey, everybody. He's Joerg. I'm AJ. That makes this the Scene World Podcast. How's it going?
Good.
That's nice. In a minute, we have Liwei Guan. She is part of the Micronics. They are working on a new mechanical keyboard for the Amiga 500, 600, and 1200. This has been sort of a thing that we mentioned it in our last podcast. It's on Kickstarter. At this point, as we're talking, there's 15 days left, and there's still quite a bit left to reach their goal. So Liwei sat down with us for a bit to talk about how this started and where they're going with it. So that's in just a minute. Before that, we'll do our obligatory news, and I don't know that I have any news because I feel like we just did this.
From Ships and Soundtrolls, the game that we mentioned in our last podcast, which was the one before the last one, where we talked to a developer and a publisher about their point of view about Gamescom. They also mentioned this game, and it has been released, and it's at least right now available at a discount from Steam. So if you want it, now is your chance.
Cool.
Another news is there has been released on YouTube a VHS recording from the early 80s where somebody made a whole episode of the original Star Trek, yeah, and made animated graphics from the Petsky character set, and then recorded it together with music.
You know what?
And the speech was replaced by subtitles, and that's a totally unique experience. So
you want to know something?
Go check that out.
That I'm pretty sure that I had the actual the file for that. I downloaded it off of Q-Link way back in the day. Of course, there was no music or anything, but the raw, like the animated CG file, I believe, is pretty old. And obviously it's on VHS, but someone added music to it for the VHS thing. But that actual animation is not new. It is pretty cool, though.
Where can people find it?
I have no idea. There were things like that back in the day on Q-Link where people would make these animated things. One of the ones that I remember was called Road Pizza, and it was I think it was a bunny that gets run over by a car, and that's it's like a bunny that gets run over by a car, and that's the entire animation. I'm looking now to try to find out if there's a date on it. Yeah, 86. Yeah, so this thing was made in 1986 in BASIC. But the file was available to download on Q-Link way back when, and that's where I had downloaded it from.
And back then, nobody made backups or archives.
I'm sure it exists somewhere. I'm sure that it exists somewhere on this planet. Q-Link was not archived. There is a lot of stuff that was from Q-Link is on the GEnie C64 Archives. I found a lot of things that were from Q-Link. Q-Link, when they went down, there was a wealth of stuff that went with them, and it's a shame. There was a lot of, I remember downloading these demos, which were demos in only the loosest sense of the word. Usually they were made with demo makers. They had SID music, garbagey SID music, not, demo type music. And it would be like just a picture, just like a picture of something from Star Trek or whatever, and that would be the entire demo. And it, that stuff is gone now because it was never its context existed entirely within QLink, and QLink is gone, and all this stuff went with it. And it's a real shame.
And archive.org just started archiving in 96, which is too late for QLink.
Yeah. Well, QLink wasn't even, that's not internet-based. That was its own little system. So archive.org wouldn't have even gotten anything.
Well, that's not true. Archive.org also got things that are not internet-related.
Okay. I'm sure that there's...
like movies, books.
Yeah. I'm sure that somewhere in the world, someone may have a lot of these files on a disk someplace that they've forgotten about. That might be in a box in an attic or something.
But are they still readable? That's the question.
I don't know. But but the actual, but finding it, tracking the stuff down is very, very difficult, and I don't think it'll happen for some time.
Yeah, ask Frank Gasking about it.
Yeah.
The Games That Weren't project. Oh my god!
Right. Well, there's two places that are good for finding QLink stuff, which is again the GEnie Archives has a lot of stuff, and then John Perky has there's a website that's got a lot of, I believe they're 1581 discs full of files that were downloaded off of QLink. It's the Squirrel's Nest collection, he calls it.
Which automatically means it's also mirrored on archive.org.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's that guy that was Gullible off of QLink. It was his handle on QLink. One of the big names from back in the day. And so those are the two main places that I've found where there's a good selection. There's a couple of BBSs I've seen that have like QLink downloads or something on them. I haven't really gone through them too much. Just because it's a process on when you're doing it actually on like the C64, going through the stuff. But a lot of stuff has never. I mean, because there were thousands and thousands of files on there, and a lot of them were not may not have been worth saving, and so a lot of them weren't.
Wow. Well, let's hope someday somebody remembers those discs.
I hope so.
And then to somebody for archiving.
Yeah, I hope so, because a lot of those things are, they may not be good, but they are historical. They're history.
What did we learn from the archive episode that released last time? It doesn't matter if it's worthable or not. You are not the one deciding that.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Other news? I got an Alexa Spot device, and I figured, by the way, that you can actually listen to us on this device by installing either from the German or from the American store. It's called Food. And the way you have to say that you want to listen to us is kind of special, because it really cannot understand a scene world. So I tried a little bit of luck, and there is one combination that works, and you would just say you would want to listen to the C64 podcast.
Okay.
And then you would get the Scene World podcast played. Okay. Because the algorithm understands it like Cineworld.
Yeah.
Or Sign World, which is of course not what we are.
Right.
We are not cinematic,
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, we will put a link to that app in the description.
Yes.
So people can actually listen to us on his assistant if they want. If they want, yeah.
Yeah.
Other news. Do you have any?
I got nothing. I got not a thing.
Not a thing.
I'm looking. I was just ripping through here, and I cannot find any kind of news or anything new. I mean, we just did one. This podcast is it's coming out earlier than we would normally do because there's a impending Kickstarter that is time sensitive. So we didn't really have the time to scour our news sources.
Or there are news we cannot share yet.
Yeah, exactly, right. All right,
Well, I mean,
if we got nothing else, then
10 minutes. 10 minutes.
Yeah, so
Good.
then
Good
we
enough.
should go over. Liwei is hanging out right there. She's been waiting patiently on the other side of the planet at like 6
Great.
a.m. So we're talking to Liwei Guan today about a new mechanical keyboard for the Amiga 500, 600, and 1200. There's currently a Kickstarter running. At the time of this recording, there's about 15 days left. So it ends on December 4th. So welcome to the podcast. Good to see you.
Hello everyone. This is Liwei Guan. I'm the creator of this Amiga mechanic keyboard. But I have also another partner. He is doing all the engineering side, and I'm in charge of this supply chain. The story behind this Amiga keyboard is that I'm Chinese. In China, in my age, we don't know what is Amiga. We don't really have Amiga. We all just have IBM. But David is my son's classmate's father, and he. When my son went to his house, they always playing games, and I saw this really strange keyboard. I thought, oh, why you have such a keyboard? It's and he said, it's not a keyboard, it's a computer. I said, really? It's a computer? Looks like a keyboard, an old keyboard. He said, no, it's a computer. Then he introduced me to this Amiga and Commodore 64, all this retro vintage computer. It really opened my eyes. And I was really surprised that it still works so well. It performs so well, even like after so many decades. And David told me, he want to change the keyboard. He want to feel good to typing and all this, and asked me because I'm Chinese. He think I can help him to get something cheap from the internet, from my country. So I say, okay, I'm going to look for you. So I look for these switches, and he made the PCB drawing. I sent to the factory, and they sent all this drawing. The keyboard, this PCB board back, and he assembled it and all the switches. And now we just have to get some keycaps.
So let me ask you, so just to make sure I got this right. So actually you got into the Amiga thing because of your father? And it's kind of a family business, so your father asked you to help you with
No, it's not my father. It's my son's classmate's father. So the two kids went to their home to play games, and I found out, this is a computer from my friend David.
Okay. Because I just wondered how does this all fit together, but now it makes sense. Okay, interesting.
Yeah, I cannot find the exact keycaps for him, and all this because there is some keycaps is different. Yeah, so then we just think about making the molding to make those keycaps, because as you know, keycap is plastic, so they need molding to make it, just injection.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but those plastic molding are talking about like thousands of dollars just to make a little one. So there are so many abnormal size on these Amigas, and so I just say, okay, let's go to crowdfunding, and that's how this project started.
Okay. Yeah, well, we interviewed people about those projects before, and as you probably may have noticed, the issue is always, if you are starting out with something new and people from the Commodore or Amiga scene didn't hear from you, then you really have a rough start to prove yourself that this is not vaporware and it's really happening. Especially in this keycap field, you know, there were other projects that promised a lot, but they never happened.
Yeah, so, I understand. I also noticed there are other guys doing keycaps. He from England, and that's the difference. So I'm from China. So as you know, China is the world factory. Everybody make everything in China. So I can make it happen over there, and that's not an issue for me because I work in this kind of field. And David is a very good engineer, and he is IT and electronic engineer. He designed those PCB board, and it's not a rocket science, to be honest. This Amiga thing, it's just a PCB board and with some switches and plastic keycaps, and so. I don't know why the other guy charged $200 for a set, and he must make a huge profit over there. And me and David don't intend to make too much profit. We just want to make it happen for all the Amiga fans. That's why people are skeptical. They say, "Oh, it's too good to be true," but it's a simple project. And why people charge huge money? I don't understand. And also, David and I are all working for many years in engineer in this project management. So we have no issue to find the right source of suppliers to make it. I understand the people are skeptical. Yeah. But we're not asking for $200. We only ask for $100. We yeah.
Right.
Yeah, well, I guess it's not about the price. It's about security that you get what you actually pledged for. I guess that's the main issue.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to hear that somebody from China that has never been in touch with the machines originally because they were not available at that time, going the whole way of helping to make such a project a reality. That's very interesting for me.
Yep. The people behind me is a Amiga fan. Like David is an Amiga fan. He just obsession with all these retro computers. He has the whole collection of Amiga, Commodore, and also IBM and all the old Apple. So he is like a retro computer a guy. So he is the drive to push me to finish this, to have this project. And my son also like this kind of game very much, so he follow him. So I just think, okay, let's make this a learning kind of thing for both my kids and David. So that's why we decided to do this project. Yeah, because it's not gonna be only beneficial to David, but also for the kids to learn something like Arduino or PCB making and 3D modeling to make them interested. In my point of view, I'm a mother. I just want my kids to learn something new, not just obsessed with some computer game. Like that's my intention to make it.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. Using computers for school or learning something was always the number one reason for getting a computer back in the 80s and 90s. And in reality, what did we do with it? We played games on it, you know?
Yes.
In a way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what is so special about your keyboard compared to, as you mentioned at the beginning, compared projects?
Well, have there been many comparable projects? Because there have been. I don't believe there has been, not for the Amiga. And I've said a couple of times that the Amiga keyboards, the original ones that came with it, there's kind of two different versions. There's one with like a spring. It's got a very Commodore 128 feel. The other one, which is the kind that I have, is just kind of a rubber cup, and they're not great for actually using it as an actual keyboard. And while we've had, mechanical keyboards for like the C64, Laubrix's, Beckboard 64 and whatnot, for the Amiga, this hasn't really been a thing, which is, and it's one of those things where I feel like it's kind of important, especially for like the 600 and the 1200, because their keyboards had those kind of flimsy, the membrane, that would go bad. And currently, I believe that if you need to replace that, you're buying new old stock. You're buying unused things that are 30 years old or so. So having something like this is pretty good. So it's more like, let's more compare this to the original keyboard, what it's replacing. Like, what does this bring to the table over what the original Amiga keyboards had?
Yes, the original Amiga keyboards are just not, as I type on it myself, is not very good, and so we already opened all the boxes of this Amiga 500, 600, 1200. The only difference is this PCB layout, and all the other things can make it compatible, because as the PCB layout, we can decide and just cut the PCB, and then we have this the difference we're gonna put is the sockets in this PCB to solder all the sockets in the PCB that you use any Chelly switches. You can just easily plug it on the sockets, like so you can, if you like green switch, brown switch, black, brown, you can replace it yourself very easy. So and also the keycaps is removable. So all this together, you can DIY. On your personal references. That's how our keyboard is differences. Yeah.
Okay.
It's actually interesting because we, as AJ mentioned before, we spoke to Lau Prax, who did the Commodore 64 keyboard replacement, and he told us that one of the main problems was language barrier with the Chinese supplier, or they wouldn't understand what he needs for these old computers. And it's interesting to talking to a Chinese supplier now who actually understands and is contributing on her own initiative to make this project possible. So that's, for me, totally interesting to see it from the other point of view.
Right.
Yeah, because as I told you, China never have this Amiga. So
exactly.
for foreigner to talk remotely, if he didn't go to China, and to give the real things to show the Chinese supplier, they would not have a clue what they are. So that's why I have this advantage to make this project really happen and to be quicker happening, because he has spent like 2 years to make it happen. Yes, but I don't know all the details in how he make it. But our prototype has been on the video, and if everyone look at our video, they can understand how this the concept and the principle on the technology we use to make it.
Interesting. I would actually ask a question, just off topic a little bit, is that, we've spoken about the retro computing scene in lots of different places. We've covered most of Europe, we've done South America, and Asia has always been something that I've been interested in, because a lot of these machines were built or assembled in China or Japan or somewhere, and yet there isn't much of a Commodore 64 or Amiga scene in there. So were they even sold in China and Japan? Or is
they never sold in China and Japan, but Japanese people still know about it better than China because they have earlier correspondent with the U.S. But in China, we only opened to the world from the 1978. So by that time, it's not like computer is the first priority or choice for us to get the import.
right?
It's IBM is the one, but not Amiga. We don't know about Amiga and Commodore.
Okay. Was there any kind of region specific, like a Chinese made and computer, like England had, the BBC Micro and whatnot that were very, very kind of country specific? Is there anything that was made in the 80s that is sort of specific to the Chinese market that we might, the people that are listening that have never had access to 1980s China would never have even heard of?
Yes, it's the IBM 2A6. Do you know about it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the very and then we very quick upgrade to a 3A6 and then Pentium. And that's how it goes. Yeah, but okay. Chinese computer and then this Lenovo, Lenovo took over IBM. Right. IBM don't want to do any software, and then we have Apple. Basically, in China at that time, even in now, we only know IBM and Apple. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Lenovo is pretty big here in Germany.
Yeah.
My laptop at work is a Lenovo. So yeah.
Lenovo. At the beginning, Lenovo was the first Chinese company. Chinese computer brand in China, and then after IBM don't want to do their hardware anymore, they just sold it to Lenovo, and then Lenovo took over. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and then
true.
all these. And like after IBM, and then there is Dell come from the US to I think at that time Dell also took up a big piece of the computer market in China. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So now it's too many varieties. So they produce lots of laptops and computers.
I wonder, as there are 15 days to go and you are still a bit struggling, do you have any backup plan in case of the funding not going as planned? Or will you just try a second round of Kickstarter?
Yeah, we've had quite a few people that we've seen that their first attempt at the Kickstarter didn't quite make it, but on a second try, second or third, it get pushed through. Dave Lowe, I believe, is one of those guys. A big musician from the 80s.
Exactly.
Yes, we already foresee about it, and I'm so glad that you contact us, and I hope after this podcast go on the internet, the people will get to know us more and know the story behind us, so they can rush to back us at this last 2 weeks. If the project fail in Kickstarter, we might go to Indiegogo, and that's what our plan is.
Okay.
Yeah, Indiegogo has the advantage of having flexible funding.
Right.
Yeah, and I think Indiegogo now is more famous than Kickstarter. They have more projects over there. Maybe more people like get traffic in the internet to all go to Indiegogo better than Kickstarter. That's my view. Yeah, I don't know.
Right, and with Kickstarter, also, you're kind of limited too, to where if you don't make your full pledge amount, then you get nothing. It's an all or nothing thing. Whereas with Indiegogo, you could still produce the amount that is, if 50 people or 80 people pledge to Indiegogo and it's not the full amount that's being looked for, you can still deliver something to that group of people that's that's contributing.
Yeah, we thinking about Indiegogo, and we also will think about how to modify our design to make it maybe less cost, so we don't need that much money. So once we go to Indiegogo, maybe we could make it happen. Yeah, that's how our backup plan is. Also, maybe we do some spam on emailing to everyone. Yeah,
because that's the other thing about this project that has been surprising to me is that I haven't seen it many places. A lot of times when someone is trying to push through a new product, you'll see it repeatedly posted on Facebook or social media sites where people kind of gather for this, and I haven't seen much about this shown and listed. So is there is there a PR method behind this? Like, is there a plan, or are you just kind of winging it?
Because like I was going to do all these spam things, but David say he's a big conservative. He say all the real people, real fans of Amiga will not want to receive all this spam email. If they think you are spam, they will never back us. That's what he says. So we have a different opinion on this. But I think it's a good idea to just get everything go out to reach everybody as much as we can. But he's big conservative. Yeah, that's how it is. Yes.
So now with the project, talking about the costs of it, from what I can understand, the keycaps are that's the most expensive part of it.
Yeah. It's the keycaps are, as you know, it's a need to make the molding. So this molding is gonna be a fixed asset. It's if people only buy 1 ton, and then this molding will just stay there like iron, just for rubbish. So that's why. And people, the factory don't want to invest on something that they don't know about the market. So both David and I need to come up with all this funding for the molding. So there is so many abnormal keys in this keyboard. So it has so many plastic molding. That's why it's expensive. Yeah. Like as you can see, the Commodore cases, the guy is very successful. He got 1,000 people backing. Yeah,
right.
The guy from Singapore.
Yes.
So it's the same issue. It's about molding issue. Yeah.
And we have seen some issues with, I believe it's Phase 5, where they were having keycap issues. Because there's a lot more thought into them than you would think. They had gone through the point of getting the molds and started making it, and then realized that the shape of the top of the key is just slightly off, and so it doesn't sit right. And then they had to go and start from scratch again. And there's a whole
making a mold is a very hard job, and it requires a lot of back and forth modifying to make it the final version to precisely fit into those switches and on the right direction and the right position. And maybe those people, the other keycap people, they didn't go to the keycap factory. Those factory specialize in keyboard. So we are going to the factory that really making their major business is keyboard. So we are going to those supplier, not just any plastic toy supplier or any plastic factory to make it. They might not have the expertise to make these little things right. That's why I'm Chinese is a perfect person to handle this project. So people should, after this podcast, people should know who we are and have more confidence in us. Yeah, not being skeptical. Yeah.
Right, that would be ideal. That would be ideal because it looks like a really great project, and the prototypes that you have on the website, and we'll put links to all of the website and whatnot in the podcast description so people can visit them. But the prototypes look really good and solid and well put together. And these are using the cherry switches, and there's 3 different kinds that you can use.
Yeah. There is 3 different kinds colors that you can choose. Or if you don't want our switches, you can buy it yourself. Switches is not a problem because I already explained that we were gonna have these sockets that can fit any cherry switches. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So after you saw our video and our writing on this Kickstarter website, do you think any other information that we need to put to make people more interested, or any other information missing we didn't think of to put it there?
I think it's pretty good. I think that it could work to have more exposure to the greater Amiga community, because like I said, I haven't seen too much about it. I kind of stumbled across it on a small news site and thought, oh, that's interesting. I could use that because my Amiga 500's got one of the squishy keyboards that isn't very good. You know, they're not great for gaming or for typing. You know, it's just kind of meh. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good information on it, and there's a video that shows, you know, how it goes together, and it looks like a very good professional product, and I'm jazzed. I hope it makes it, because and I hope that if the Kickstarter does not succeed, I hope you don't give up on it, because it really is a good idea, and it's one of those things that lots of other machines have had these mechanical keyboard replacements, but the Amiga has kind of been left out of that loop.
Yes, I was surprised as well, because when I do some research on Amiga, and I found Amiga is the most active community in the world. Still till now, it's like a lot of fans. And there must be something really good about this Amiga. So we need to bring it back to life and reserve it and introduce to more young generation to have a look. And maybe there will be some other invention based on this inspiration of Amiga.
Where can people go to find out about this new mechanical keyboard and everything that you guys are trying to do? I've got a website here. It's themicronics.com.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's where people can go to see what you guys are doing, and then there's also the Kickstarter site that links to that. We will put links to that in our podcast description.
Yeah, thank you very much for the interview, so people know about us now. I hope.
Well, we will do everything that we can, and like I said, if the Kickstarter doesn't succeed, if it falls short by any amount, I hope you don't give up on it and pursue it through Indiegogo or some other method, because it's really it's a cool project that I really do think would benefit the greater Amiga community.
Yeah, all right. Thank you very much. Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for sitting with us.
Your time. Yeah. See you. Bye.
So that was Liwei Guan from Micronics. She's developing the new mechanical keyboard. If you want to know what she's doing, you can check out www.themicronics.com. There's also a Kickstarter link, which we will put in the podcast description. It's kickstarter.com/project/Micronics/Amiga-500-upgrade-new-mechanical-keyboard. So everyone check that out. Post your questions. If there's anything else that you want to know, then yeah. For Joerg is still getting his groceries. So for Joerg, I'm AJ. See ya.